Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to Lost in the Wasteland, my weekly interview show where I get to learn a little bit about somebody else's perspective on movies. And I have a very special guest, filmmaker Carl Kelsch, joining me for this week's episode. Carl, thank you so much for taking the time to chat some movies with me.
Shane, it's so good to be here. We first got acquainted because when I see a movie I like, I just find every review, every YouTube
Mm.
review, and you must have reviewed something that maybe not a lot of other people had. And so it kind of like popped out at me. I was following your reviews, and when I finished this short film Scammers in 2023, I was like, I wonder if being also a New Jersey resident, which I am, I live in the East Rutherford area. I
Yeah.
was like, it would be so cool if Shane would review this movie. And I knew that you reviewed some shorts.
Yeah.
It was playing on the festival circuit, so I felt like at least, it's not something that people can't see anywhere. Um, and I just remember refreshing every day, like, when's this review going to go live? And Scammers is really special to me because I really identified as a writer for a lot of years, primarily. Um, I'm an NYU dramatic writing department grad that's part of Tisch. And so some of my film friends, were in the film program at NYU. I came from Delaware to NYU and basically stayed in this area ever since. And, like writing, screenwriting, specifically screenwriting, I really kind of that's my real area of like where I identify as a writer. I don't know if I have a novel in me or anything, but I just really relate to this medium. I had like a script option right out of school where it was like picked up by this company. They were basically the A24 of their time, Good Machine, and the script was optioned for Alan Taylor to direct. Alan, Game of Thrones,
Yeah.
Sopranos, Many Saints of Newark Taylor, and that was just like an exciting thing to come out of college with. Um, Ultimately, that after like 3 years in development, that never got made. Um, got optioned by another director later, but like over the years, writing short films for other people, there's probably 10 short films with my name in the credits, including one by director Jeremiah Kipp, who went on to do Slapface. Um, and basically dabbled in directing when it always be like, this just reminds me that this isn't what I want to do. But my pandemic epiphany was that I realized that I had kind of been just scared of just like that pressure of like helming the ship, and that I wanted to get back in behind the camera again. I made Scammers. I know I was going to make a short, but the idea came when I got scammed in the manner of the character in the film. It's what's called a dent repair scam. So I was like, this is what I'm going to write about. And I think it made it less intimidating to get back in the director's chair because um, I had a sense memory that day. And I was like, this isn't reliant on locations, crowd scenes, crane shots. It's like if I can just recreate that sense memory of the day and I have that reference point, it just would let me make decisions much more like, realistically. So we shot it around Jersey. It's 6 festivals. The most recent was Queens World, where I got nominated for Best Director of Narrative Short. Didn't win, but I loved the films that I saw there. It was my favorite festival so far. And then we'll be in New Jersey later this month on the 25th at the inaugural Rutherford Film Festival, which they're doing
Nice.
at the Williams Center. So it's exciting to have this out in the world. It's exciting to get a review from someone I really admire. Um, and I also have a film threat review and by this guy, Bobby Lapierre. Do you know him? And
Anything.
I just have to read Scammers in terms of direction is a masterclass in simplicity. That's one quote. That's my proud quote to share from my film threat review. So it's hard to get reviews for shorts, as you can imagine. But it's so great to know that other people are watching. And I encourage every film lover to just every once in a while take a chance going short of the week or on Mileto or one of those sites and
Yeah.
just watch the good shorts that are out there. There's some awesome stuff.
Yeah, Which, first off, I really appreciated you reaching out to me and getting a chance to check out your film. And oh, on another level, being able to support some Jersey pride is always nice too, because we don't necessarily get a uh, good reputation from people. I automatically take points off for movies. I'm just kidding. That make fun of New Jersey. I don't appreciate it. But being able to support a little film like that, I always appreciate. And I do enjoy getting to watch short films. And I think they're underappreciated because it's just like, oh, well, it's just a short. It's like, well, you can tell a really great story in a short period of time. It's all about how you tell the story. And, I do an article at SIF Pop every month, the short list, where I do highlight new release short films. I always check out First Showing. I've checked out Short of the Week, some YouTube channels and stuff like that to keep an eye out for different kinds of shorts. And I'm always happy to be able to highlight a film. And honestly, over the 8 years that I've been doing this YouTube channel, my niche has been, oh, nobody else reviewed this movie. And I'm like, well, that's how I get attention. So there you go. So I appreciate that. And it's also really enjoyed the film, and I hope people go check out Scammers. So, and this is a nice other way to get a little bit of attention for it as well. And specifically getting to know you a little bit more, Carl. So I guess at this point, if you're ready, you can jump into the questions.
Totally.
So after doing over 190 episodes of this show, I found out that people hate this question, but I ask it anyway. What's your favorite film?
Well, I do have an answer for this because um, this one particular film became so meaningful to me because I kind of realized I had a take on it that I wasn't reading in anybody else's reviews. The film is Three Women by Robert Altman,
Okay.
mid-70s. It stars Sissy Spacek and Shelley Duvall. And I think it has its following among people who like Altman. And I think Altman can be kind of hit and miss sometimes. I got to shake his hand in person once at a screening in New York for Shortcuts and even get his autograph.
That's pretty
Um,
cool.
so he definitely has an aura to me where but there's something about the fact that he is willing to make films and not maybe personally worry how perfect and digestible they all are for everyone that creates something like Three Women that's just like there's nothing like it. You could read 10 people's take on it and they all kind of pick up on different things. Everyone likes to fixate on that he says it was inspired by a dream he had, and people love to say that it's Altman's persona. Um, I watched it many, many times, and I love a spell it casts, and I think it's part of just like the 70s cinematography language. It's always just, it's influenced by the drug culture at the time. And, there's trippy shots where he literally shoots through this like thing of oil and water that swirls. It's like, I think it's like one of those like pieces of home decor that some people had in the 70s that just kind of like tilts and tilts. It creates waves. Only Altman would be like, let me put the camera right up against this thing and shoot through it and filter it. And like, that's like, impressionism. And I think that those just simple things, they cast a spell. And for a while, it was the performances and the oddness of it that really jumped out at me. You have Sissy Spacek is idolizing Shelley Duvall's character because they work together. But everyone in Shelley Duvall's life just can't stand her. They find her so annoying. But somehow Sissy Spacek is like a puppy dog at her lap, wanting to soak up everything. And after many watches, I decided that this film seemed to really get at something amazing that I can't say there's another film quite about. And that is like, it's possibly to me about what a mother goes through when their teenage daughter hits puberty. And they go from being the center of someone's world and on a pedestal to very quickly everything changes. And that child's existence is the thorn in your side. Their very existence reminds you that you are going to one day be replaced by them in the world in terms of desirability, in terms of purpose. And that happens in the film in a very surreal twist when when Sissy Spacek falls into a pool, goes into a coma when she comes out. she acts different and differently, and everybody kind of just is like, oh, that's such a weird plot point, and it's just kind of impressionism or just surrealness. But I really think underneath it all, he captured something that is like horrifying when you think that almost
Mm.
every mother, especially with a daughter, kind of maybe identifying with each other in a certain way more than fathers and daughters or mothers and sons, goes through this thing where they just have to see this person who adored them so much like turn into something that's like attacking them and resentful of like the similarities. And it's like to have a movie make you think about something that's such a normal part of life and see it differently and say, wow, that's very surreal that this is part of like our normal like growth of a human and a parent and a child. For that alone, and the fact that not everyone even talks about it or loves that about this film, it will always keep it very high on my top list. And right now I would say it's my favorite film for years.
That's awesome. I'm not well versed in Altman's filmography. I have not seen Three Women. It's on my list to watch, my ever growing watch list of movies to check out. Um, I remember, I think the first Altman film that I watched was Gosford Park because when I was younger, I had one of those like DVD through the mail clubs that were at like the dawn of DVDs before the internet became a big thing, and it was like the selection of the month, and Gosford Park came. So love Gosford Park, love Nashville, but definitely seems like another film that I should definitely check out. Maybe move up my watch list to check it out. Yeah, that's awesome.
Criterion put it out because I think they just know like there's something about it.
That's awesome, and love a Criterion Collection release. They're keeping physical media interesting, which is appreciated, as you can probably tell by the insane amount of DVDs I have behind me.
I do have my
So
DVD case
yeah,
showing behind my
nice.
poster, so
It's appreciated. Now, Carl? What's your earliest memory of going to the movies?
well, I'm a little older than you. I'm going to turn 50 this year.
Mhm.
Um, I probably did not see the original Star Wars in the theater because that would have been when I was like 5 maybe.
Mhm.
But I remember being in line for the second one, Return of the Jedi.
That's awesome. It's very interesting because Star Wars turns out to be a big answer for a lot of people, and it's generational, right? Because I
Mhm.
was, God, it's celebrating its 25th anniversary this year. Phantom Menace just got
Mhm.
re-released in theaters, and I remember going to see that when I was a kid, and that being like the biggest deal because I used to watch my Star Wars movies on my VHS player, and obviously Star Wars is a big moment for a lot of people and still is. Um, Hopefully, the next time another Star Wars movie rolls around, it's like to get people back out to that shared experience.
I also want
Now,
to shout out to seeing Fox and the Hound, a Disney movie with a best friend,
nice.
parents taking us to the movies. That's a formative movie experience when you go with like another family or you go with your best friend. And then by the time I was in second grade, it was the summer of Poltergeist and E.T. And
Mm,
just to be, I guess I would have been 7 or so. Poltergeist created the PG-13 rating because it was so terrifying to 7-year-olds, but I
yeah.
ate it up. It scared me, but oh my God. To be 7 and to see peak fantasy Spielberg or Spielberg produced things like E.T. and Poltergeist, it's like, it's just, I mean, the kids 15 years before, yeah, they were getting like Willy Wonka, but these were just films that were like pushing childlike imagination as like the biggest budget and no expense spared to like blowing children's minds in a theater.
It is a very special thing because, like, obviously, generations to come will watch them on, I guess now streaming, but like on VHS or DVDs. Because I think by the time I was a kid, Steven Spielberg had kind of like past that point of making films like that. I was probably growing up. By the time I was 10 years old, he was in like making AI and Minority Report and stuff like that. but I just can imagine seeing like ET for the first time as like a kid on a big screen and just the amount of movie magic that was.
There's a scene in the trailer of the lit finger reaching out, and because nothing like that had just been in the canon, you just didn't know if it was like a horror film. And you're that
Yeah.
age, you're like, this is scary looking.
Well, and I wound up doing Spielberg for one of my other shows, dove through all of his directorial efforts, and rewatching ET recently, like the first 30 minutes of the movie, you're not quite sure if you're supposed to be afraid of this alien or not. And Close Encounters is the same idea. It's like that's kind of a horror movie for a decent chunk of it because you have no idea like what this is. So, and that sense of wonder and not being afraid to include that in something like ET that's more for like kids and family. I think 80s were a little different then. They weren't afraid to like scare the kids a little bit, along with being whimsical. I watch Never Ending Story. There's things in that will still haunt me. So
There's something that people can put in like the base of their plant. You know, you see little trinkets there with like a
yeah,
tray on the horse. Oh God, it's like because yeah.
every child that watched Never Ending Story was scarred for life because of that. Now, what's your favorite genre of film?
It's definitely horror. It's
Mm.
definitely horror. And like honestly, I think probably if the idea for scammers didn't come along, I would have been twiddling around with the idea of trying to direct a horror short because it's just the language that I would love to play in and I will go see a good percentage of horror movies in the theater. Like even if it's something that I feel like is a little bit for kids and I'm not going to love it, like it's a great experience to see the group. It's a great experience to feel the audience kind of express a verdict. By the time you walk out, you hear people muttering, "That wasn't scary," or people are like, "Oh my God, that's crazy."
Or
And
hopefully they're not laughing
yeah,
by the end.
or if they're laughing, it's because it's a great horror comedy, which I also love. So horror for
Which,
sure. Um, you know, I love a horror movie that can also make you cry. I mean, Carrie can destroy me when I watch that. As somebody who grew up with like kind of a lot of religious vigilance around me and being in the closet too. There's just something about that and its sensitivity towards that character. It wasn't until like the fifth time I saw Carrie where I was like, and probably people who read the book kind of already feel like they know this, but like she brings the house down on herself. I think when I was a kid, I was like probably so swept up in my religious upbringing that I'm like, okay, God's just going to destroy this situation because it's out of hand. But just when like to get a little older and be like, wow, she believed God was so ready to punish her that she destroyed the house on herself. That is like something everybody should just be aware that those emotions are in people around us that we interact with every day. Just because they can't literally do it with telekinesis
yes.
doesn't mean that we're walking shoulder to shoulder with a lot of people are that intensely dealing with self-destructive impulses. And to see it carried out in such an incredible climax in a film. It's to me, it's what definitely my personal one of my personal favorites.
Yeah, I was late to the horror game because I'm a giant baby. So I remember watching The Mummy, like the 1999 one when I was a kid, and being terrified. Because like it has some horror elements. It's mostly action adventure, but there are definitely some horror elements still in the film. And I don't think I saw a horror movie in a theater until that is probably Ouija Origin of Evil. Which like I remember sitting there watching it, like Mike Flanagan's an amazing director, and just being like, like sitting there with my hand over my face. I'm like, I can't handle this. And especially like now I see all kinds of different films, and I've seen plenty of horror films in a theater. Nothing quite hits like seeing a horror movie by yourself in a movie theater. Um, I'd slowly started going back to the theater during COVID and saw The Night House. And I was in a 400 seat theater by myself on a Friday afternoon to watch that. And that just made it 10 times worse in
Mm.
terms of like the horror. But no, horror is such a special genre too, because it's like it's a special feeling being able to make somebody afraid. And like I know people who like really, really enjoy it and think it's a lot of fun. Not quite there, but like if a film can hit me like that, that's something special. And it's also interesting because I'm a big reader too, but I've read so many Stephen King novels, huge Stephen King fan. So like I did read Carrie years after watching the movie, but getting around to reading that as well. And that's something special being able to like have that kind of reaction. Now, Carl, who's your favorite filmmaker?
A person that I kind of like stand by despite his controversy, despite clearly the self-destructive tendencies he might have, is Lars von Trier. He came out right on the heels of graduating NYU with the film called Breaking the Waves that was really it was divisive, but it got Emily Watson an Academy Award nomination, so it was respected. Have you seen this particular film?
I haven't seen that one, but I have certainly seen some Lars von Trier films.
Yeah. Um, there's something that he does in a few of his movies, not every one, where he takes, I feel like a big uh area of where my film interest doesn't lie are people who really seem to just pull their inspiration from the world of moviness and movie life, and that tends to be certain kinds of action films and this kind of screenwriting bro culture where they just kind of want to like, well, what if the spy had a clone and da da da? No one's done that, so I'm going to be the first to write it. I'm like, Lars von Trier will bring in, a lot of real emotions into his films. But every once in a while, as naturalistic as people kind of think some of the stuff is, he has this playful, twisted idea to mix things that shouldn't go together, and that brings it into something else. So this particular movie, Breaking the Waves, deals with this kind of simple woman who's just kind of has a very like sheltered view of the world in this religious community, and basically she marries this guy played by Stellan Skarsgård, and like he opens up her world. Then he gets into this accident, and she has this relationship with God that she's kind of prays in monologue to God, and does his voice back at her. So her faith is unwavering. But Lars von Trier basically takes like religious films by Carl Dreyer and these European influences, and then mixes it in this case with this very pervy, like Skinamax type premise for the second half of the movie, and no one would think to meld these things together. Basically, her sick husband, who she loves, tells her, I want you to sleep with other men and come tell me about it and it will make me better. He says this because he thinks it will make her finally find someone else and break up
Yeah.
with him and lose this connection that she had. She was, the first person she ever, she lost her virginity to, and he feels like it'll break this connection with her and she can move on. And he feels so guilty that she's with this guy who can't have sex with her anymore. It's crazy the things that happen after that. It's absurd, and it's so crazy that he can walk this line and mix in these real. There's an uncomfortable scene of her, getting a guy off in the back of the bus, and it was exactly like this premise of this movie that I saw when I was 12 with my friend when he had cable. There's something called The Lady on the Bus, and this woman just decides to like break away from her societal boundaries by going on the bus and just like hooking up with guys in these very like promiscuous manner. And it, you know in that sense, the movies at the time were just a poor excuse to have these kind of titillating softcore
Yeah.
scenes. But for Von Trier to take something about faith and then mix it with this other kind of film, and then just say, okay, well, how would I direct this to make you still, to not take you out of it and not make it feel like a joke, and find something meaningful in that combination? For doing that, that film is way up there for me. And the way he thinks, and as somebody who's a writer, when I get stuck, I'm like, why not like kind of reach for something that I love it doesn't feel like it goes with this. What happens if I toss that ingredient in? Kind of like an experimental chef would do, and you might end up with something new. And I'm sure there's many times as writers we know it doesn't work that way, but there's nothing like the movies when he does this kind of tonal balancing act. And a lot of people think he's prankish and they watch his films and they kind of get angry about how manipulative they are. But I think a lot of his films are better on second watch because once you know the ending it's going to, and the ending of Breaking the Waves is a doozy. Same with Dancer in the Dark, doozy of an ending. The films are better the second or third time because you stop being like, oh, it's so the ending, what the hell? And you can just see where it all philosophically ties together.
He he's definitely one of those filmmakers that you know when you go into watching one of his films that you're going to have a wholly unique experience. And there's not a lot of filmmakers that can say that. And you know, a lot of people are turned off by where he goes and pushes his limits and stuff like that. But they're powerful films, and they're able to find something that connects with us on a deeply human level, despite the fact that, you have like House That Jack Built, that's this film about a serial killer. You have Melancholia, that's you're just speeding towards this impending doom and experiencing something like the struggle that this woman's going through. And like something like Antichrist is wholly out there and fully committed to exactly what it's trying to say. And how many directors can deliver something like Dogville that's just like there's no set and it's just like a bunch of people acting on a stage with like things drawn out on it. It's something special. So I could definitely appreciate being able to like build that kind of connection with a wholly unique filmmaker like that.
Yeah. And the last
Now,
one of his to throw out is
okay,
he did the Dogma movement, which was all the minimalism and no
yep,
soundtrack and all. The Idiots, hard to find, will probably get re-released in future iterations, but it's not his best movie, but it has an ending that I think is one of my favorite endings of movies. Like it's just so the way it sneaks up on you and I just think it's brilliant.
awesome. Now, thinking about in front of the camera, who are some of your favorite actors or actresses?
Um, seeing seeing Heavenly Creatures by Peter Jackson in the late in I guess it was mid 90s, yeah, 95 probably, was a super formative experience for me because I had gotten to see a preview screening of Dead Alive in the States before this movie was out in theaters. They had this event,
Yeah.
college for guy in one of my classes in college just gave me this invite that was like safety pinned to like a rubber ear. And, you know, first of all, it's just they don't do these kind of like sneak preview premieres anymore. They had like a zombie parade. They had a coffin with all the body parts. Guess how many there are in it, and you win a prize. But then I loved the movie, became such a fan of his. And when Heavenly Creatures came out, I talked my dramatic writing department teacher into getting us into a press screening, which is like, NYU students just getting let into
Yeah.
a press screening. It's just, just following Melanie Linsky and Kate Winslet ever since, and so fascinated to see, now they're both kind of like neck and neck in terms of just people loving each of them. But Melanie Linsky had to go a very different road and just kind of like fall in love with them from that movie and then jump to now when you're asking me this question. Very fascinating to just see they're so both beloved now. Um,
Mhm.
you know, Melanie Linsky in Yellow Jackets and Kate Winslet in Mayor of Easttown, like happening around the same time. It just shows you just like they were in it for the long game. They they keep landing these great roles and I just love both of them.
Yeah, you're definitely right in terms of like their different trajectory because obviously Kate Winslet had Titanic. That's just like boom shot to like the biggest sense of stardom but it could have easily it's been like, oh, I'm just going to be in like these big blockbuster films and been just a movie star, but like the work that she's done as an actress is so impressive. And whether and like obviously she's a awards darling, she gets a lot of attention in terms of like nominations stuff like that, but just the work between like Eternal Sunshine and I don't know how many people still love The Reader. I know The Reader got a lot of attention when it came out in terms of awards and stuff like that. But like, I remember watching that and just being blown away by what Kate Winslet did, and she's just such an incredible actress. And then Melanie Linsky, definitely between Yellow Jackets definitely getting like a huge sense of attention because of her performance in that, and even stealing the show, getting to star in like one episode of The Last of Us. In terms of the like, it's really awesome seeing like premium television being able to continue to offer dynamic roles for actors. And I think the first time I saw Melanie Linsky is like I remember her being in a very small role in Perks of Being a Wallflower,
Hmm.
which is a film that like really struck me when I was in college when I watched that for the first time. But they're both extremely talented actors, and Kate Winslet's one of the best in the world. So it's always exciting to see what she does next. So, and hopefully Melanie Linsky keeps riding this Yellow Jacket popularity and getting some more chances to get some big roles as well.
Yeah.
Now, Carl, what's a film that you feel like you could watch literally like any day, every day?
I thought about this question too because um I would say probably The Craft, that 90s horror. I would
Nice.
almost call it a horror comedy because it's so fun.
Mhm.
Um, about the four high school friends that form a coven and got remade. I loved it enough that I watched the remake,
Yeah.
and not gonna watch that one every day, but it's not bad. Um, it just has a rewatchability factor, um, where like moment to moment the girls are playing chess with each other sort of, and like kind of like pulling the rug out from each other, like almost like spy versus spy, this really ridiculous way, just kind of like undermining each other in these little ways.
Yeah.
And so it has like, that energy of something like Mean Girls, but just in the horror genre, which I love. And, it doesn't overstep its effects budget so much that it's like that it feels too dated. There's this funny scene where she changes her hair color, and like it's like a little bit like the one kind of effect that every time I see it, I'm just like, that's so much a wig right now. It's like should have spent a little more time on this. But like I remember playing, you know, uh what is the game where you lift someone up with your fingers? Light as a feather, stiff as a board, and the girls do that, and just like doing it with friends, like after watching it, and the physics of it kind of actually work, and strangely, like you can lift someone up with just like a group of people on their fingertips, and it feels absolutely magical. What are some of your rewatches?
Oh, I there's definitely films that like I could throw on literally any day and just have a ball watching them. I might be one of the biggest Shrek fans that you'd probably ever meet in your life. Shrek 1, the first Shrek and Shrek 2, I could just throw on. I'm almost at like Will Smith level from I Am Legend, where I could probably quote the whole entire movie to you. At this point, um, Big Lebowski definitely is one of them. I'm a huge Coen Brothers fan, and just being able to watch the dude and all these ridiculous characters that he interacts with in that film. Uh, Probably Mad Max Fury Road. It's just complete mayhem for 2 hours, and it's such an absolute delight from start to finish. I'm so ready for Furiosa to come out in a couple weeks. Very excited about that. But no, it's interesting because you brought up like the '90s had some very like cool, really fun horror films, and obviously probably the one that most people go to is Scream, which Scream is like completely breathe life back into the slasher genre. Because, like, to be perfectly honest, by like the early '90s, how many different Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Friday the 13th movies had we gotten each? Like a dozen. And it was really cool, like having something like Scream come out and become such a big thing. And now Scream's getting up there because what are they working on the seventh one at this point? So, but no, they're definitely ones that I would rewatch. But The Craft is definitely like that's like such a '90s experience and like that feel with everything. Now, Carl, what's a film that you love because it connects with another interest of yours?
Hmm. I would say, ooh, I like Devil Wears Prada because I work in magazines and have for like years. And there were a period where I worked at Condé Nast, so I would, brush shoulders with Anna Wintour on occasion. I remember the movie came out and to think like, what is it like to be kind of named like a cultural devil, like
Uh-huh.
in the pop culture sphere, and walking out of the building and seeing these two cute guy French tourists ask her to like take a picture, and I'm walking right behind her because I came out of the building behind her, and they handed me their camera, and I took the picture of the three of them, and she was so gracious and so sweet with them, and I'm like, I bet she probably has to like really think about every public interaction she has and how she's perceived after this movie because it was such an iconic bad boss role. And I love things that even touch on workplace at all in movies. I think it's such a big part of our lives. So places that like capture that, movies that capture that are really interesting to me. How do you feel about that particular movie?
Oh, I love Devil Wears Prada. I remember watching that for the first time and it just having such a great time with it. Because you can also tell everybody else in the movie's having a great time with it. I love Anne Hathaway, so I'm a big Anne Hathaway fan. And just seeing like Emily Blunt as that like kind of antagonistic other employee there, and Stanley Tucci just being absolutely fantastic. And boy, did Meryl Streep have so much fun in that movie and just eating that role up so much. And I know I remember when that movie came out, like I wasn't really interested in Devil Wears Prada, but like taking the time years later to actually watch it and just appreciating like this is a great film. This does a lot of great things. There's great acting and great characters in this, and it's so relatable, especially once you get closer to like actually working full time and just realizing it's like, oh, having to put up with this kind of stuff in that environment. Probably my workplace film is Office Space. Just
Mm,
being able to capture the most mind numbing elements of like, why did I have six separate people tell me about this cover page on my TS reports? And, just trying to slip out before it's like, Lumberg is like the boss from hell, probably to most people. Just like, hey, Peter, I'm gonna need you to come in on Saturday. Thanks. And just like whack. Just like the big, just whack. It's just so great. Everything about it. Like Milton, just like you have somebody at your job that just wants to burn the place to the ground.
mhm.
And most likely not literally. Milton's literal. With that kind of experience um, all over his stapler and just the
Yeah.
workplace dynamics with other people. It's so perfect, and that is also 25 years old. 1999, what a year for movies.
Oh, being
So
John Malkovich. Oh, yeah.
Matrix, just there, and it did it all. Really great book about that I read recently. Now, thinking about who's a movie character that you feel like you connect with on a personal level?
Hmm. Probably Little Edie from Greg Gardens. Have you seen the documentary Greg Gardens? It's kind of like
I don't
this.
think so.
It's a Criterion kind of classic 70s by the Maysles brothers, who did like also the Gimme Shelter Rolling Stones concert film to
Okay.
capture murder in the audience. But it's big enough, especially in gay culture, that there's been a Broadway musical. Drew Barrymore and Jessica Lange were in the fictionalized version of it that they did for HBO movie. Little Edie has this mother, and that they kind of live in this house. She's like 50, but she's kind of like has this just childlike passive aggression. Her and her mother in a battle of wills, and they're actually the cousins of the Onassis, of Jackie Onassis. And it was scandalous in the papers that they were living in squalor in this house that was full of junk because, they have rich relatives. So Jackie, paid for the house to get cleaned up and stuff like that. But then the Mills had already decided they wanted to make a documentary about them. And the documentary was controversial because people felt it was so uncomfortable to watch these women, this mother and daughter in this dilapidated mansion in this battle of wills, that they felt like, do these two people know that they're like kind of like we're kind of like almost like laughing at them, and it feels exploitative, like they don't know that, to have their life up on a movie screen is like hard to
Mhm.
watch. um there was something about that movie that just kept me coming back, and I realized recently, I was like, although I didn't live in the house with my mom past age 18, I really was in a battle of wills with her. And I really was like in this like childlike mindset of like, you know, especially with coming out, like when is she gonna like, you know, kind of like loosen up about all this? It took her 3 years to meet my partner after we started dating. And it's just like not every person has that experience where they just like they kind of almost enjoy being the child to their mother so much that they get caught in it for too long. And I certainly did. And I realized that that's what I loved watching with this movie, Grey Gardens. It's like for everybody who's calls their mother on Mother's Day this year and then sighs and puts down the phone because it was hard to do, turn on this movie and just watch it.
They spoofed this, didn't they,
They
on
did
the
on that.
documentary
Yeah.
now? I looked it up like, wait a minute. It was Fred Armisen and Bill Hader that played the mother and
Yes.
daughter, right? Oh my God. Also, documentary now is one of the best things you can watch. Especially if you've seen a lot of these kinds of documentaries and stuff like that, and just realizing what they're spoofing. I definitely have to watch this now because now I'm extremely
Yeah.
uh my interest has been piqued quite a bit to go check out Grey Gardens now. So, but I appreciate that. Now, what's a film that you feel like you love that would surprise people?
Um, that's a tough one. I would say like because I'm sort of known for like over talking like the most obscure. Did you see, this Little Hours Jeff Bana film? It's the funniest movie ever. It's like even I know it's not the funniest movie ever, but I just like know that no one's paying attention to it and I just want people to see it. So I can be that person who's always cheerleading the little tiny film. So when I love something like Charlie's Angels, the first one, I think that's people. Like I love that movie. I saw it in the theater, dragged a bunch of friends to it, and was like, it's like, see, I knew it was gonna be good.
I distinctly remember when that came out because, like, at that point, all of them were some of the biggest stars in movies getting cast in this. Because, like, Cameron Diaz was huge, Drew Barrymore was huge, Lucy Liu, of course, Bill Murray being in it, and also apparently being a giant dick with filming it. And like even looking back, like Tim Curry was in this. I distinctly remember Crispin Glover because if you needed somebody to be extremely creepy in a movie, not Crispin Glover. I haven't watched this in so long. I'm just looking at the IMDb and realizing like, oh, Cool J's in this, Matt LeBlanc's in this, post
Look at the
post
screenwriter.
Friends.
Look at the
And
screenwriter and read the name because I think that'll surprise you. I'm 90% sure it's Justin Theroux who wrote it.
he is not one of them,
Oh,
but I am always surprised when I do see him pop up as a screenwriter on things.
is he in the
Just like
movie? Is he in the movie as like a
I just
villain?
I know he was in Zoolander around that time as just some random off character there. Like this movie has Tom Green in it. So like like this is very specifically at a certain time in terms of filmmaking and stuff like that. But no.
Also, I was in the closet at the time it came out, and so I
Uh,
think my love for it, I knew I was like basically like by raving about it, I was like getting like, a little a little belly about it. And I was like, I don't care. I love it so much that like, these, these women have captured my imagination because they are like queer icons, and I'm not gonna I'm not gonna pretend I'm not gonna pretend it's too girly for me.
there you go.
I swear to God, Barbie's gonna be that for many like 10, 11, and 12-year-old boys. They're just gonna be like,
Mm,
I don't care. I can say that I love it. It's not going to look that weird. Everybody loves this movie. It grossed $1 billion.
yeah, exactly.
Watch it. My mom's going to wonder why I'm watching it so many times, but they
It's
are
like,
going to keep
why have
watching.
you watched Barbie 20 times since it came out on Max? Because Barbie's great.
Yeah.
So, now, my last question for you is what do you love most about movies?
Um, I've realized that, there's like everybody kind of has their medium. It's like you can be a book person, you can be a movie person, you can be kind of like I only like a short videos that are people falling on furniture. Um, I think I just have accepted that my brain locks into movies in a deeper way that some people can. I can watch a movie on my phone and it
Huh.
might as well be on an IMAX screen because I'll be that zeroed in on it. Completely wires into my brain. So I'd say the thing I like most about movies is they tap into something for me that feels so real. I also have a very vivid dream life. I remember a lot of my dreams. Um, I feel like a good movie is like the best kind of drug you could ever take because it's like it's just this reality altering experience because if you're the type of brain that hooks into that language, you're there. Um, and then as a drug, it also just has a lot more beneficial effects than maybe some of the other ones that are out there. But I've had movie experiences change my thinking about something, change my relationship with myself, change my point of view on things so many times. I don't know if everyone who even has those experiences would word it that way, that a movie changed their life or thinking about something. But I think there's enough celebration of movie culture that we know people are having very, very like intense psychological connections to what they're seeing. So I think it's magical that just by being in the language of visual reality, they lock into our brain and can like set neurons going on that no medium before that could really necessarily do.
Hmm. Film is all encompassing. It hits on everything because it is auditory, it is visual. And I've certainly had moments where I walked out of the movie where like I was so in that movie that I walk out and like it's still dark in the movie theater and you're just like, I'm ready to go conquer this thing. And then you walk out and like a light and you're just like, oh, that's not what I do for a living. It's like I gotta go back to work tomorrow. And just having that kind of it can be intoxicating being brought into that kind of experience. So I appreciate your answer.
Do you have the experience where you're watching a trailer and you're like, the trailer ends and you just forgot what movie you're about to go see because you were so in?
100%.
It's like a minute and a half.
Well, and at this point too, when you sit through like 25 minutes of trailers, sometimes it is hard pressed to be like,
what did I come to see?
Yeah, what am I actually watching today? And especially because like I'll go see anything. So like if I'm going to see something that I'm not super excited about too, and the trailers are going, I'm just like, what am I even watching today? And then like some of those trailers like hit so hard because like I've been eating great lately, eating great because I'm a huge Planet of the Apes fan. I'm a huge Mad Max fan, and this month getting to see Kingdom of Planet of the Apes and Furiosa and seeing those trailers over and over again. Sometimes I get like all caught up in like, oh crap, I'm not here to see them. I'm watching something else today. But no, some trailers just hit on a certain wavelength because like especially when you go to the movies a lot, God, some trailers could be the most irritating thing in the world because you watch them 50 times and you're just like, I cannot wait because I remember distinctly last year anytime the that second Killers of the Flower Moon trailer came on, like I was hyped. I'm like, I'm feeling this. And like I can watch this trailer over and over again. And then other times I'm just like, God, I hate this trailer so much. When's this movie come out? 3 more weeks. More weeks.
Oh,
And but it's those kind of experiences. But yeah, I've certainly sat through a trailer where I'm just like, I'm so hyped for that. And I'm just like, what am I seeing?
hmm.
Like I'm completely connected now. Now, oh, go ahead.
I have a question for you. Like, that's I want to know not so much the movie that people will be surprised that you liked, but the movie that you ended up getting excited about and other reviewers like shaded you or like, oh my God, I can't believe you like that. Are you like on
I'm trying. Probably the one that I legitimately got the most crap for was probably because like I got very lucky back during the pandemic that I got to see Wonder Woman 1984 a couple days early. And like I had a screening link at home. So like I watched this at home, sitting there watching this movie. I'm like, this is campy, it's over the top, it's ridiculous, I'm having a ball. And like it's I know that Patty Jenkins was supposed to be going for that like old school Superman kind of feel. Like it's supposed to be campy and ridiculous. I'm like, I had such a fun time with this. Just watching like Pedro Pascal having a blast being like, life is good. But it could be better. And just really knowing this is movie supposed to be ridiculous and over the top. And then the reviews started coming out and all of my friends just being like, fire Patty Jenkins now. This was an atrocity. And I'm like, did we watch the same movie? So that was probably the one most viscerally that I got a lot of crap for. Um, because I'm like, I had fun with this. I had a good time. Oh
I
well.
think it speaks to something that, as someone who devours reviews, it speaks to something that's brave about what you all do. And that is like by coming out with them early, simultaneously, not waiting a few days because you really don't have the choice
Mm,
often. You put your opinion out there and like even if you kind of start to hear some of the other opinions, you're like, oh, I guess that's true. And maybe it even takes your appreciation down a notch. There's something just so great to know that like when you're reading a review, you're getting like one person just trying to kind of guess, like, I love it. Is everyone gonna love it? Maybe
yeah.
not, but like I'm gonna go out on a limb and I have to say it. And I think it is brave. And I think it is really the only way we really get to know like what somebody's really thinks about a movie is when they've said it before they know what anyone else thinks about it.
Well, and that's a challenging thing too, because it's a lot easier to put out a review when a movie's already out. It already has Rotten Tomato reviews and stuff like that, and you can go and look at them. I try not to look at reviews before I hear my thoughts on it because, like, I want them to be like, this is what I legitimately thought about it. And I remember I got a PR email back in like January for hundreds of beavers. And I'm like, this looks ridiculous, and I cannot wait to watch this. And I remember popping on that screening link and just being like, I feel like I just witnessed greatness happening before my eyes. I'm like, this is the most ridiculous thing. Is this guy in a black and white film fighting people in beaver costumes and just being like, this is this is a live action Looney Tune cartoon that I think I always wanted. And I would distinctly remember emailing my friend Robert, who's the one of the editors for the website I write for. I'm like, Robert, I want to review hundreds of beavers. And he's just like, what? And putting that out, and it makes me so happy now because hundreds of beavers finally got released on VOD and people are starting to see it. I'm like, and seeing people reinforcing that like they felt like they watched something special. I'm like, whew, I have not completely lost my mind watching this movie. And I think that's a really special thing, being able to see something early and being like, there's no context here. I haven't watched I if I it's not in a movie theater, I don't watch trailers. I don't want to know what the movie's about. I want to go in and watch the movie. Like Abigail, I wish I didn't watch a trailer. I wish it didn't. I didn't know going in that there was a vampire ballerina in this movie because watching that movie, what a twist that would have been. It's in a situation where it's like it's so great to be able to just watch a movie without any expectations and just appreciate it for what it is. And I know a lot of people are like, well, I thought this movie was going to be this, and I'm like, yeah, but like it wasn't. So like,
Mhm.
don't put that on the movie. That's on you.
Yeah.
Like, and also it's like marketing sucks. So like people any A24 movie, they'll try to sell us something different just to get people into the theater. So like watching Hereditary being like, wow, this is a lot different than I thought this was gonna be. And it was good for that reason specifically. But you actually beat me to it. Usually I ask how I like to wrap up the show is have my guests ask me a question.
Mm.
Is there another question you want me to ask? Or are you happy with that one?
I feel like I'm happy with it because
Uh-huh.
I really think movie lovers, um, review culture is like a gift to us. And I just feel like that's to just highlight the risks that you take inherent in your job that most people think, oh, it's just watching movies and writing about them. No, there's a lot more to it. And I think it's an art form. When you find a critic, a lot, I think a lot because people have gotten so used to filtering like Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes,
Yeah.
just kind of it's sort of maybe hurt their maybe impression of what film reviewing is. But I think it's incredibly important. I think it's incredibly important that there's paid positions that are devoted to it, and you spend a lot of hours. Okay, this will be my last question.
Okay.
What's your amount of hours a week devoted to watching?
A
Just so people can
lot.
have you ever crunched it into like an average? Our
Well,
phones tell us, you have 3 hours of screen time today.
I I always try to watch at least one movie a day.
Yeah.
And usually it's a new release. So like I try to watch a new release every day. And like if I'm lucky, I get to watch like do a rewatch or watch something for that I'm going to be doing for one of my podcasts, chop and things off my watch list. But I spend at least, I guess, at least one or two movies a day. And when I don't get to watch a movie during a day, I realize like, oh, that wasn't a great day, was it? And one of my things, like I get up at 5 o'clock every morning. I'm an early person and live a whole life before certain people even turn in bed. And being able to just, get engrossed in a movie, it's a great feeling for me. So I do spend a lot of time with it. And I certainly like I was I'm in that like Chris Stuckman period where like watching Chris Stuckman grow as a film reviewer. Uh I've always appreciated his opinions on films. I always listen to Breakfast All Day, Christy Lemire and Alonzo Duralde, because like if they like something, like I know that it's like it's good. Because like they're probably the most critical people that I like to watch. And like even if they don't like a movie, I appreciate their perspectives on it. And I think that's important too. Because like sometimes like I watch something like Alonzo like tears to shreds. I'm just like, well, I liked it. But like And the like, I think he's blown away by hundreds of beavers, and I'm just like, I feel a little bit validated. And like Christie's just like, nah, this should have ended like an hour before that it did. And I'm like, I can see where people are gonna feel that way. Cause like, did this movie need to be an hour and 50 minutes? Maybe not, but I had fun the whole time. But being able to find those connections. But I appreciate your question. But Carl, thank you so much for taking your time today to chat movies with me.
Yeah, I loved it. It's great to pick your brain too.
Awesome. And I hope all of you go check out Scammers when you get a chance. So I'll
It'll be
definitely put
online. Yeah, it'll be online for free probably by August or September. So
awesome.
Google it in a couple months.
There you go. But thank you all, as always, for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.